Namaskar, dear friends. One of the most dangerous moments in the spiritual path is when we're faced with loss, destruction, death, grief. Those are moments when we might really lose our trust and our faith. So how can we overcome that and find strength and power from those moments? I am at the moment in Ukraine. I'm in a park in Kyiv. And yesterday I met with a woman, and it reminded me actually of some wisdom from the giant sequoia forests in the US. So when I met her, she is actually working with students of engineering. And to my surprise, she said, in this situation, we've lost a lot of our electric infrastructure, but somehow it's really great because our infrastructure was aging, it was inefficient, it was old, it was from the communist period, it was very centralized. And so now this is giving us the opportunity to finally build it back in a modern, decentralized way. And I was really struck. Wow, something that would seem like devastating, to find that actually it cleared the way for newness to reemerge. And it reminded me of a kind of lesson, spiritual lesson that I learned from the giant sequoias in California. When I went there, these trees are massive. Maybe you've heard about them or been there. Some even had tunnels where you could drive a car through. And they're filled with scars. They have black scars of them, of charred, like carbonized bark from the different fires that they have endured for the thousands of years of their lives. Now, in the beginning, when humans started to realize the greatness, this treasure of these ancient prehistoric trees, and we're trying to be more careful to preserve them. You might know that in California there's periodic forest fires. Actually, in most forests there's periodic forest fires from lightning strikes, etc. And in order to protect these very rare, endangered trees, they would put out the fires. But it was only later, with more careful study and understanding of the life cycle of these trees, that they realized they were actually harming the ability of the trees and of the forest to regenerate itself. It remained stagnant. It wasn't growing anymore. What happens when there is a forest fire is the cones that hold the seeds of the sequoia trees are covered in a very thick resin. And that resin is designed to only melt in the high temperatures of a fire. So when the fire comes, then the cones can open up and their seeds are revealed. Not only that, but the fire itself has burned away the small trees and the brush and the leaf litter on the floor of the forest, creating the exact environment needed for the saplings to be able to take root and thrive. Because otherwise there's too much shade, they don't receive enough light. So the fire actually clears the way for light to come down and to nourish these little seedlings. And the ashes enrich the soil and lay bare the mineral part of the soil that the tree actually needs. So the whole process is a process designed by nature to actually regenerate the forest, not destroy it. Even though in the moment, the fire, it leaves these black scars on the trees, It reminds me also of how in life, even the most traumatic, painful things that we've been through have made us who we are now. They have brought us on a journey. And you can wear them as almost a badge of honor. I've been reading a book, a biography written by another Didi, and she lived through a really dangerous experience where she'd been on a motorbike and she was attacked by a mob, threw a brick at her, and it split open her forehead. And luckily, she had paramedic training and she was able to jump on the scooter and just flee, with the help of another nurse who was with her and who was encouraging her the whole time. Even though blood was flowing into her eyes, she somehow managed to get to safety. And then she was left, with this big scar on her head. And when she went to see her guru, the master said to her, "Oh, you have come with your Jaya Tilak." And that means a sign of victory. She said, before that she was really thinking about going to plastic surgery to kind of hide it, to be able to, erase the mark of that wound. But when he gave her that framing, and said, "This is your mark of victory," she thought, because, the whole experience was one in which she felt only divine protection is what saved her and carried her through that. So she wears it as her part of her identity with honor. All of us have scars. And we might also feel at some point ashamed of them, that they're ugly, but they are part of who we are. When we're able to embrace that, it leads us towards, you might have heard of radical forgiveness, really an ability to integrate everything and to embrace also some of the lessons that come from those fires that appear only destructive, but are allowing something new, something fresh, something better to emerge. I'm not trying to encourage a kind of toxic positivity. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I did watch the Barbie movie because I was wondering how could it possibly have had such high ratings. I'm still a bit disappointed. Yeah, that's a good example of this kind of like toxic positivity, keeping you very superficial, where it's like, oh, everything's for the best. Oh, everything's beautiful. Everything's great, No, it's okay to grieve. It's okay to be human and to allow yourself to fully experience the pain of our humanity, the pain of loss, of separation, of letting go. It makes us more real. It grows our compassion. If we are afraid or not willing to go that deeply and to feel those emotions, we're only living then on some surface level. It takes courage to live deeply and fully and fearlessly. And destruction is always going to be part of nature's cycle. We think, and that's where that danger on the spiritual path comes from. Oh, if God loved me, how could he possibly allow this to happen? Well, some of you are parents. I'm sure you love your children. And I'm sure your children don't feel very loved when you refuse to give them, ice cream every day. They would like to have only ice cream. Why do they have to be tortured and eat other things? But as parents, it's not that you love them only when you give them sweetness. Sometimes, you allow them even to make a mistake, to fall, to experience something, a failure. And we don't have to protect them from failure. Actually, it's important just to be alongside of them and to help them to see what they can learn and how they can grow from the failure, rather than trying to protect them from it or hide it or lie to them about it. It's painful to lose, but with hard work, next time you're going to be able to do better. And this fosters that growth mindset, that positive attitude towards life's challenges, and creates a more resilient and strong personality. To be resilient is to be like a tree. The trees, when they have deep roots, and are well nourished, their branches are strong and flexible. And so when the winds come, they just bend. But if the tree has dried out and its branches are, rigid, then when the winds come, the dry branches break. Keeping your branches flexible means you have to have that connection to a source of water. The deep roots of the tree are able to draw up water from the underground source of water, even when there's a drought, even when it hasn't rained for a long time. Trees, actually, you see, I'm now in the middle of the hot summer, but I'm in a park surrounded by trees, and here the temperature is actually cooler, and there's moisture in the air because these trees, they bring up the moisture. They create a lush and cool environment for all the ecosystem around them. So the same, when we're living our lives deeply, when we are connecting to the soul, and that universal soul, that energy is able to come into our whole being. It gives us the resiliency to be strong and flexible through all the ups and downs, all the winds and storms of life, and to be able to live our lives deeply and fully. Another symbol of this cycle of destruction and regeneration is the Ouroboros. Now, this is a symbol that exists in Egyptian mythology, in Norse mythology, in Greek mythology. It's the symbol of the serpent that's eating its tail. So it's eating, so as it eats, it grows, and as it grows, it's reabsorbed. So there's this constant creation and reabsorption and destruction. And so, that's how it can be always new. So there is a permanence and impermanence. There is an infinity in this kind of cycle of creation and destruction and creation and destruction. And it happens on microcosmic levels in our own lives, and it happens on macrocosmic level of the whole universe, and we're part of that. And so trusting the divinity of that, trusting that it's painful, but that there is purpose and meaning and growth and regeneration that will come after the destruction. It's like the phoenix will come out of the ashes. This is a kind of eternal truth that you can trust, but it is a test and it is hard. So I wish you strength and resiliency to be able to find meaning even in painful situations and moments. Thank you so much. Namaskar. Namaskar. Dear friends, thank you so much for your contributions that are making this channel possible. It is your support and donations that are allowing meditation to reach so many people in a really accessible way. The inspirations and spirituality that you are making possible to spread a change of consciousness on the planet can only happen with your support. So if you'd like to find out more how to be part of this change and bring meditation to more people, there's more information below in the description. Thank you so much. Namaskar.